So here's what your practice looks like. Beautiful. Up here, I did a quick little explanation. So basically, the whole reason we do z-scores is because it's an easy way to compare data that has a completely different scale. So if a college is looking at two different candidates and one took the ACT and one took the SAT, how do they compare those scores? Because in the ACT, a perfect score is 36, but on the SAT, a perfect score is 1600. So z-scores just give them a way to compare basically how far above or below average they are for that particular test. So the z-table takes it one step further. By looking up the z-score on the z-table, you can find out what percentile you're in. And that just means what percent you scored higher than. So I give you an example up here. For instance, when you're a little kid and you go into wellness checkups and they look at the percentile of your height, they're looking at the percent of people that you are taller than. So if you are in the 96th percentile of height, that means you're taller than 96% of people your age. But if you're in the 12th percentile, that means you're only taller than 12% of people your age. So it gives you a sense of basically where you stand in comparison to everybody else. So using a z-table, I gave you two. One is for negatives, these, and then one is for positives, these. So here's how we're going to use it. I'm going to do the first couple of examples from both of these so you can see both ways I'm using it. So on the first one, we have a z-score of 1.86. That's a positive number. So I'm going to be sure to use the one that is positive. That's this right here. And remember, the z-score I said was 1.86. So this part right here gives me my ones place and my tens place. So here's the 1.8 right in there. The sixth is way up here. So then I find where the two meet. Right here. So this number, 0.9686, is actually a percent. I move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right, and I get 96.86%. That's the percentile for a z-score of 1.86. So right here, 96.86%. So all I did, and I'm going to do it again, is I take the first two numbers and I find them on the left-hand side. So I'm looking for negative 1.82. That means I need to use this one. Here's my negative 1.8. And then I look up top, there's my 0.02. So that means I'm looking at 0.0344. I can write that down. And then to make it a percent, I multiply by 100 or move my decimal point 2 spaces to the right. So that's 3.4%. So the smaller the percent, that just means the lower the percentile. All right, sometimes you have a z-score that has more than 3 numbers, like this. I have 2.818. So before I look it up, I need to round. Since this number is an 8, I'm going to round my z-score to 2.82. Now I make sure I have the right one. It's not this one because that has negatives. It's this one. I find my 2.8 over here. This is 2.80, 2.81. This one is 2.82. And I see it's 0.9976. So I go back here. That was z equals this, and I said 0.9976, so that turns into 99.76%. So remember, I had to round in this one because I had more than 3 numbers here. Same thing is true here. I have negative 2.255, so I'm going to go ahead and round and make that negative 2.26. That's the z-score I'm going to look up. I use the table with the negative z-scores. Negative 2, what was it? Negative 2.6, negative 2.26, Up there's my 0.6, So it's this one right here, 0.0119. 0.0119, and that turns into 1.19%. So that means that, that means that is very low. So all I was doing here is I've given the z-score, I look it up on the z-chart, I write down the decimal and convert it into a percent. Now I can also go the other way. If I have a percent, I can find the corresponding z-score. So if my percent is 94.06, that means I'm now going to be looking on the interior of the chart. And I'm going to be looking for those 4 numbers. But remember, on the interior of the chart over here, we had to convert that into a decimal. Sorry, we had to convert that into a percent. So now we're going to do the opposite. We have 94.06. I now need to move my decimal point 2 spaces to the left. I'm looking up a z-score, I'm looking up a percentile of 0.9406. So looking in here, you should notice the numbers go bigger as you go down, but they also go bigger as you go across. So you need to find the number that's closest to 0.9406 as you can. And it happens to be right here. So to get my z-score, I need to go across to the left, 1.5, and then I go up and I see it's 0.06. So 1.56 is the z-score that has a percentile of 94.06%. The trick to this one is remembering first convert to your decimal, and then second figure out which z-chart you should be looking at. Here I have a percent of 46.81. So converting it into a decimal will be 0.4681. And I noticed that it's a small number, 0.46. On the standardized normal distribution, that's the curve that looks like this. On that, the mean is 0. So anything less than the mean has a negative z-score, and that negative z-score means it has a percentile of less than 50. So if I look at this positive z-chart, the smallest number on here is 0.5000, because that's where you have a z-score of 0.00. So I actually need to look at my negative z-chart because I'm looking for 0.4681. And again, it's kind of just a matter of skimming. So I see over here 0.4602. I need 0.46, what was I looking at? 0.4681. Sorry about that. 0.4681 is right here at the very, very bottom. This guy. So I go to the left, negative 0.0. And then I go all the way up 0.08. So my z-score is negative 0.08. Z equals negative 0.08. Sometimes you get a percent that it doesn't have any decimals. So if I wrote this out, I would most likely write it as 0.9600. My z-chart might not have exactly 0.9600, so I need to find the closest number if that doesn't exist exactly. So looking at this, I see 0.9599 and then 0.9608. So I would say this one's a little closer because it's only off by 1/1000th, whereas this one is off by 8/1000ths. So 0.9599 is as close to 0.9600 as I can get. So I go across 1.7, and then I go straight up 0.05. So 1.75 would be my z-score. And my last one is kind of tricky because it says 5%. Remember, when we write percents as decimals, we're working backwards. So we would move it 2 spaces, 1, 2. So I now have 0.05, and all the numbers in my z-chart always have 4, so I'm going to add some zeros over there. 0, 0. So I'm looking for 0.0500, or as close to that as I can get. On my positive z-chart, my smallest number is 0.500, so I got to look at the negative. Remember, I'm looking for 0.0500. That's getting kind of close, so let's look this way. So I have 0.0505 and 0.0495. Those are pretty equally spaced, which means you could tell me either of them. So negative 1.64 would be acceptable, and negative 1.65 would also be acceptable. So over here, I would write down negative 1.64 or negative 1.65. Either of those answers would be okay. All right, you have only 8 left to do. Remember, on the first ones up here, you're just looking up the z-score on the left, and then across the top where the two meet is the percentile. And then on the bottom 4, you're looking for that percentile as a decimal in here and going backwards, giving me the z-score.